everyone. Here's what's coming up tonight on News Center Now. People who want to get into Maine's booming cannabis business will be paying attention to this one. Proposed rules in Maine's largest city. A draft reviewed tonight. We'll have the details.
Plus, a mother is demanding answers after her daughter's memorial site was vandalized.
There aren't many unpolluted skies left in the country, but we got a few right here in Maine. This is News Center Now. Can you believe they make me angry?
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us. I'm Lindsay Mills.
And I'm Keith Carson. Portland City leaders are laying out a draft of rules for retail marijuana businesses.
They're meeting tonight to discuss those proposed rules, which would cap the number of recreational shops at 20, ban mobile delivery services, and set the annual licensing fee at $10,000. And it's that fee that we're taking a closer look at tonight to see how it stacks up to others established across Maine and beyond.
The $10,000 licensing fee for the adult use stores is definitely on the higher end for licensing fees that we've seen.
Thomas Memoris is the director of operations at the first permitted medical marijuana storefront in Portland's Old Port, Fire on 4. He says he's prepared for an annual fee like the $10,000 one city staff are proposing.
We've seen that as a cost of doing business in the legal side.
How does Portland's proposed annual $10,000 marijuana retail licensing fee compare to the city's liquor license fees? A new application for that costs $45. Then there are different types of liquor licenses depending on the venue. For example, the fee for a brewery, winery, or distillery is $525 annually, and for an inn holder with more than 41 rooms, the fee is just over $2,200. Now let's take a look at marijuana fees in other Maine places. In Auburn, the new application fee is $500. For adult use and medical cannabis stores, the fee is $5,000. Topsom charges a $250 non-refundable deposit for all applications, and then caregiver retail stores require a $3,000 fee every year. Taking a look at another city in another state, Denver, Colorado. The fee for a new retail marijuana store is $4,500. For a medical store that is adding retail marijuana, the fee is over $2,200. In San Francisco, California, cannabis business permits cost $5,000 a year. There are some additional fees for inspections and new applications that cost between $2,000 and $3,000. Back in Portland, Maine, city leaders say their suggestion of $10,000 will cover internal resources for applications, inspections, and responses to complaints. And businesses like Fire on 4 aren't discouraged by it.
It's a cost of doing business and an investment into the future for our businesses.
Now, this is the first time City Council will discuss what the staff has proposed. There will be no public hearing or vote tonight. There's a good chance other places around Maine will be watching to see what Portland eventually decides. Cities like Waterville, for example, have not set licensing fees as of yet.
You know, so what's interesting about this is, like, how much money do you make selling weed legally? I don't know the answer to that question, but is it as lucrative as doing it illegally would be? If so, $10,000 doesn't seem like a big deal, but I'm not sure. Like, if you're not selling kids bags of oregano anymore, then maybe you don't make as much money. I don't know. I don't know how it works.
Yeah, it's interesting. Something that we're going to be talking about for quite some time here as it evolves in Maine.
Liquor license is actually cheaper than I thought, too.
Right?
To look inside.
Depending on what venue.
Did we get one here at News Center? We can get the liquor license.
The wet bar?
Yeah,
over by the Weather Center?
Yes. That'd be something. We don't need that in our lives.
Yeah.
78 in Portland for a high today. Look at Freiburg, a real anomaly relative to the rest of the state at 87 degrees for a high temperature there, 81 in Bangor, 85 in Caribou. So we talked yesterday about how the models wanted to keep everyone in the 70s today, and I just didn't think that was accurate. And turns out, obviously it wasn't, as it's still in the mid-80s in Paris at 84, Turner at 77, and 82 in Millinocket. Nice day, though. Humidity crept up just a little bit, but I don't think it was noticeable to a detrimental degree. It was still pretty pleasant out there, and the cloud cover minimal. High thin clouds rolling, though, into the mid-coast out ahead of what's going to be a fog bank for overnight. overnight tonight. And showers and storms still way off to our west. Those will come through tomorrow afternoon. So overnight tonight, watch those clouds. And again, there'll be some fog pushing on shore late tonight, early tomorrow morning. So it'll be pretty thick, I think, in places tomorrow morning. Down East Maine might even see some drizzle associated with this. Otherwise, it's mostly cloudy tomorrow. Temperatures are mild, it's humid, and then showers and storms try to come through tomorrow afternoon. But we get basically the entire day before those showers and storms come through overnight. Lindsay, it's been a while, but we will actually have 2 days in a row of at least a chance of some rain. We'll talk more about that in a bit.
It's been a while, that's for sure. Thanks, Keith. More lives could have been lost in the shooting in Ohio over the weekend if it wasn't for quick thinking. A bouncer at the front of Ned Pepper's Bar and Grill alerted the staff to the shooter, and employees inside hustled the crowd of people inside out the back way. Also, we're learning today an ex-girlfriend of the Ohio gunman who killed 9 people says he showed her a video of the Pittsburgh synagogue shooting on their first date. Hospital officials, meanwhile, say 7 victims remain hospitalized. Now, the story of the 2 mass shootings from over the weekend generated a lot of conversation here on our show yesterday and on Facebook Live. A lot of you talking about mental health and mental illness. We read comments like the 2 you see on your screen here. So here to help us continue this conversation in an informed way and navigate this complicated topic is Dr. James Wallach, the medical director of hospital psychiatry at Maine Medical Center. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you, Lindsay.
So what makes mental health in this light such a complicated topic?
So when we talk about mental health, we're really talking about people's thoughts, their emotions, and their behaviors. And those things are a part of our personalities, our character. They're something that's a part of all of us. And so it can be really tricky to distinguish what aspects of our thoughts, our feelings, or our behaviors are normal or healthy and what are unhealthy. There's lots of people out there who have thoughts that we, or many of us, most of us, would consider abnormal. That doesn't necessarily mean they have a mental illness.
Yeah, so they might not have that clinical diagnosis. So when talking about mental health and gun violence, such as a mass shooting, what are some important things that we need to consider?
So it's important to consider that scientific studies have failed to show any significant link between mental illness and gun violence. Only about 1% of all gun violence committed, or 3%, I'm sorry, committed in the United States is attributable to people with a mental health diagnosis. And
only 3%.
That's right. So people with mental illness are at no greater risk for committing violent acts than the general population.
That's really interesting when you look at the statistics and data there. So then when it comes to mental health, when we're talking about gun violence, what's an educated way? How can we talk about this in an informed way? What are some things that we really need to keep in mind in the wake of a mass shooting?
So because mental illness involves those aspects of a person's character and personality that I mentioned earlier, it's ripe for misperceptions, judgments, and stigmatizing. And so it's really important for us in our efforts to stay informed to make sure that we're relying on credible sources for that information.
Yeah, you see one thing leads to another on social media especially, and then the next thing you know, you have this whole thread of comments. Yeah. My last question for you, biggest misconceptions people have about mental health when talking about a mass shooting?
So it's important to remember that people with mental illness are not dangerous, and that mental illness really it involves a whole spectrum of illness severity. And so we have to be careful that when we refer to people with mental illness, that we're describing a very large group of people, and that it's really more complicated than just a label.
Sure. Well, Dr. Wallach, thank you so much for spending your time with us. You're going to stick around and answer some viewer questions on Facebook Live during the commercial break. And tomorrow, just a programming note on News Center Now, we're going to continue this conversation with one of your colleagues. This time, we're going to talk about talking about traumatic events with children of all ages. So that's tomorrow. Up next on News Center Now, we head live to the red carpet for the premiere of Dancing in the Rain in Boston. A large part of our News Center Maine crew is there to help with that. And a vandalized memorial is strengthening a family's love for each other. Sam York will join us with that story.
in front of the camera, as well as having hair that's driven many a man to Rogaine. I think that's the other thing he's known for.
He does have great hair.
His latest movie, though, it's called The Art of Racing in the Rain. He's actually going to be behind the scenes producing it.
This movie preview actually made me cry, and I don't cry really at much.
Probably has nothing to do with anything else that's going on in your life.
Exactly.
At all.
Well, Lee, Cindy, and Amanda are all in Boston tonight for the red carpet premiere. Let's check in for more. Hey, guys.
Hey, okay, to be fair, Keith, it's not just the pregnancy, because Kirk, our photographer, and I just finished watching this movie, and we both cried. You guys have yet to see it, but you've read the book.
Right, and
Yes.
might have teared up a bit in the book, too.
I totally cried.
Yeah.
Totally
Yeah,
cried
yeah.
reading the book.
And I
yeah.
brought like 40 boxes of Kleenex here tonight,
Yeah.
too, just in
to
case.
share with
It-
others.
It is an emotional film, and when you watch it, it's interesting because when Patrick Dempsey stepped away from Grey's Anatomy, he had said, I want to produce and I want to do more racing. And this was sort of the perfect combination.
Absolutely, absolutely. He had this in mind for quite some time. And, you know, I guess I don't know, because I don't live and work in Hollywood, but it takes a while to get things to move through the Hollywood world.
Yeah.
But he got it done. He got a great director in Simon Curtis and a great screenwriter in Mark Bombach. And from everything I hear from the few people who've seen it, it's just amazing. So.
Yeah. And it incorporates a lot of the things that he's so passionate about, which includes racing. And the other thing I won't say because it might mess up the plot of the movie.
Well, there's a component that makes sense for Patrick to be involved other than racing. Yeah, and we're going to talk about that tonight. too.
I think that's fair to say without any spoilers. And we actually are going to talk a little bit more about that component and the reason Patrick chose Boston for this movie premiere. We're going to talk about that a little bit more at 5:30. Back to you guys.
All right, sounds good, guys. Looking great, too.
They look smashing. They
Don't
look very, very red carpet. I'm impressed.
And they have great weather to match. It's perfect.
Yeah, it's fun.
Oh, you guys look awesome. Look at you. I love it.
Photoshop.
Coming up, a mom is cleaning up a mess to send a message.
Speaking of messages, here are my messages for today.
So possibly some wet weather to maybe talk about.
Definitely. I mean, it's not a huge deal. It's just
Yeah.
we've been in this pattern over the past 4 or 5 weeks.
We've
where
been spoiled.
We've gotten like 3 or 4 hours of showers, and that's it. It's moved out. So it's going to be a little bit more typical in that regard. But we shall persevere through this and be all right. And today was actually a really nice day. Temperatures popped into the upper 80s away from the coastline in spots. 83 right now in Freiburg, 77 in Bangor. Low 70s along the coastline, really big ocean influence here this afternoon, and there's going to be some fog that rolls on shore as well. So that'll just cool us down even farther overnight tonight. Dew points crept up a little bit here through the middle of the day, and this is all in response to that low level moisture in that fog bank that's floating in and out of the coastline, and that pops those dew points up. But it's in general still pretty comfortable. Gets a little bit more humid though during the day tomorrow. Satellite looks good. We are seeing some high thin cloudiness. There's actually a bunch of rain out over the Gulf of Maine, so we're seeing some of the clouds from that along the immediate coastline. Interesting because models didn't have it nearly this close. I'm glad it's not snow because it would make me pretty nervous being just parked out there over the Gulf of Maine. But most of us will be dealing with this front tomorrow across upstate New York. The difference between the next 2 days and the last couple of weeks is that we're going to have a much slower movement in the jet stream. And so we've been rocketing these systems through, which is a good thing to do if you want nice weather. But this one's going to be just a little slower, kind of a kinked out jet stream pattern. So here we are tonight. Maybe some mist along the immediate coastline. A lot of fog, I think, settles in early tomorrow morning. And tomorrow's not a good looking day. There's a lot of clouds. It's relatively sticky. Temperatures in the mid and upper 70s, even some low 80s. Here come some showers and thunderstorms in the afternoon. But notice they have a hard time kind of getting through. So it's showery overnight tomorrow through the first half at least of Thursday, probably into Thursday afternoon, and maybe even Friday morning there's a sprinkle before we finally clear out Friday afternoon. So it's that slower pattern that is the result of that is a longer period of rain. That being said, the total amounts here for rain don't look to be that high. We're looking at under an inch in most spots and up to 1.25 inches in some of the heavier downpours, but that's going to about do it. So there's your pattern, there's your front. It's really stalled, and then a trough comes through as we head into Saturday. So, yesterday I said the weekend's a 7 out of 10. I stick by that. I don't think it's perfect. and compared to some of our previous weekends, it may not be quite up to par. It's still nice. It's just that the last few weekends have been unbelievable. I mean, we talked about you can go to the lake, go to the beach, do whatever you want. This will be fine, but there will be a scattered shower in there on Saturday.
Might just take a little bit more planning.
Yeah, exactly. I should plan around some precip, which has been a while since we did that on the weekend.
Good to know. I'm heading up to camp, so I'm going to pack my slicka.
Yeah, I like that. Like a native now.
The slicka's a raincoat, right?
Yeah,
okay.
I think so.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
As far as I know.
All right. Well, when someone tragically loses a loved one to a car wreck, many times the family will create a roadside memorial in their honor. We've seen those. It can be part of the grieving process for the family and a chance to keep their memory alive.
All right, we're actually working on that story right now, so we're going to get to that to you shortly. We're going to move on to what's our next order
story.
of business here. I think it's a big shift here.
Yeah, here we go.
Oh, all right. Is that Zach Blanchard?
What is this?
No.
New selfie technology.
So this is a new app that basically is going to try to measure your blood pressure by you taking a selfie. So I've seen similar technology. The concept is that natural light penetrates the outer skin of the face and allows that sensors in your phone to detect blood flow patterns. And researchers tested this software and it was actually pretty good. 1,300 adults who recorded 2 minutes of selfie video compared to a traditional cuff-based device. It predicted it within the 95% for the upper number and 96% for the lower number. So
interesting.
It should work, although I would just counter with this, or you could just use like a normal blood pressure. You can go to CVS and they've got them for free.
Right.
But I guess it works.
It's interesting. I still can't get over, and this is old technology now, but when Facebook could recognize your face and tag you in a photo, I still can't get over that.
I'm actually not a giant fan of that, but such is life. That's what it is now.
Right.
I'm like, I don't want to be tagged in that picture in the background, being a creeper. All right, what do we get next?
Are we going to talk about this Oregon man, Isaac? Yeah, cool. Okay, so he's glad to have his stack of cash back after throwing it in the trash. So you ever throw your wallet away? I've actually done this one time before. Well, the man says his wife was cleaning up around the house when she mistakenly threw away a shoebox containing $23,000 cash. When he couldn't find the money, he called the trash collector, which thankfully was able to locate the box and bills. The man says all but $60 was recovered, and he is lucky.
I feel like we're skipping a lot of details there. He called the trash collector and they gave him his money back. Like, it's like Lee went into the bathroom and then he flushed. No, there's a lot that happens in between there.
How about this too? 5-time golf major champion Phil Mickelson is in Maine, or he recently was, to take in Acadia National Park's incredible beauty. Lefty posted a pair of photos of himself hiking Acadia's Precipice Trail and said it's one of the coolest things he's done. Many people were impressed with his choice of footwear for this
that's a pretty
adventure.
Legit trail to just be wearing sneakers to.
I've almost passed out on that trail.
Good. You maybe should never do it again. Just a thought.
We have a lot more news coming up on News Center Maine at 5:30. Here's Rob Caldwell with a preview. Hi, Rob.
Hi, guys. The part of the Appalachian Trail that attracts thousands of hikers to Maine every year is well known. And as you know, the trail is challenging for hikers. It's also difficult for people making rescues. We're going to hear some advice for people venturing out on the trail. And the Maine Public Utilities Commission says it is delaying a decision on CMP's rate increase request. We'll learn the reason behind the decision for the postponement. Those stories and more straight ahead on News Center at 5:30.
All right, Rob, thanks so much. Stick with us. We'll be right back. All right, revisiting that story we tried to bring you earlier. When someone loses a loved one in a car wreck, sometimes you'll see the family will create a memorial on the roadside in their honor. It can be part of their grieving process, and it's a chance to keep their memory alive.
Now tonight, one family is demanding answers after their loved one's memorial was vandalized in Hiram. Our Samantha York met with them today and joins us for more.
Hey guys, Denise Wakefield's daughter Haley was killed in a car accident back in 2006. She hasn't had the strength to go back to the crash site since. But today, she went back to help clean up the mess and spread a message. Haley Verrill was her mom's miracle baby.
They didn't even know if I would have kids.
On May 16, 1988, a healthy baby girl was born. A little girl who would grow up to make her family very proud.
She was a good person. She would do anything for her friends. She loved her family, and her family loved her.
But tragically, in the spring of 2006, just 2 weeks before her 18th birthday, Haley's life was cut short.
All the pain of that day. I remember it like it was yesterday.
She was killed in a car accident. All that remains at the site of the crash is this memorial. This is all Haley's family has left.
That's where she was taken from us. Her spirit's there. You feel like her spirit's still there, and you go and you feel like a connection.
Which is why they were shocked to find someone had nearly destroyed it this week.
You see how they bent this one right here?
Smashing lights, ripping down pictures, stomping on butterflies.
Somebody lost a loved one there. Why would you even think of destroying that? Just think that someone would hurt that stuff, and that's just a memory of her. And they're just hurting me all over again.
The site may be cleaned up now, but the pain, that lingers.
I just want to understand why. That's all.
Haley's family may never find the people responsible, and they say that's okay. Instead, they hope the suffering those responsible have caused their family is punishment enough and makes people think twice before they act.
For someone to do what they did to this, it's
shameless.
It's unforgivable.
Haley's family says that they spoke with an Oxford County Sheriff's deputy this morning, and they will be keeping an eye on the site. And they say they hope no family ever has to go through something like this again. Guys, back to you.
All right, Sam, very, very heartbreaking. Thank you for sharing that story. To Braindrops we go. And yes, we get the open.
I was wondering if they're trying to reduce the amount of times we see that. Because a fair tactic. Yes.
I love it so much.
Pay for play.
Yeah.
Okay, so this struck me because one, we had the aurora last night in Maine. In some spots we saw that. And the others, one of our directors, Jeff, had a great picture of the Milky Way they took from camp up near Eustis. And so this is losing the night. This is where are there pristine skies left in America? And it's only the black areas. This is from a study from this year where they took into account all different types of light pollution. And there's not much. In fact, on the East Coast, Maine is it. And not all of Maine. You'll notice it's basically just centered in a couple spots out here towards Baxter State Park. And I would argue that parts of the mountains are pretty pristine, but they didn't quite reach the criteria of being able to see the night sky truly the way it is. So if you don't live in these little dots and you want to, and when you see it, right, if you go out and you let your eyes adjust and you see the sky for what it really is, it's almost shocking because you don't see it anymore.
Right.
Seeing the Milky Way, seeing all the stars. Light pollution's a weird topic. It doesn't do a lot of true big damage, but it does mess with people's sleep cycles. It messes with animals a little bit. So I think recently people have started to think about, do we need all of these lights? And it also saves money not to have them. But
this is fascinating.
The West is your best chance, as you can see.
Yeah, awesome. Okay. News Center Maine at 5:30 starts right now.